I've sold over 1,000 ceramic fortune cookies in the last 2 years. Last year I had a friend from my gym send me a note to see if I could poke holes in his order of 5 so that he could make his own Christmas ornaments, and I thought that was such a good idea, so this past Christmas I decided to make a bunch of them myself to sell. This actually isn't the first Christmas ornament I've ever made. The very first thing I ever sold to anybody was a Christmas ornament egg, and one problem with it was that it was rather heavy, so you could only hang it on a heavy branch. The good thing about the fortune cookie, on the other hand, is that it's a lot lighter, so you can hang it anywhere. And the other problem with my old egg ornaments is that I went to the fanciest fabric store in the city and chose this expensive natural ribbon, which was not the right choice because it holds creases so easily. So it never stays as a pretty round bow when taken out of storage. So I learned that in this case, expensive doesn't always mean better. After I made the fortune cookies with just holes in them for my friend, I decided to do a whole run of them on my own with ribbons. Because it's hard for me to get the time to make it to the studio, I started these during the summer and only barely made it in time to get these out the day after Thanksgiving, which is when I think you really need to have Christmas ornaments available. I spent every weekend leading up to Thanksgiving working on them, and after Thanksgiving dinner, I even had my family working on tying ribbons before I allowed them to take any leftovers home. To make the fortune cookies, I start with a round slab of porcelain cut out using a cookie cutter. I fold it and then wait an hour or so for it to firm up a bit before then going back and poking the hole with my ceramic hole puncher. Then I let it dry for at least a day. Because porcelain is so finicky, it cracks at the fold every time, so I have to clean the crease up quite a bit using a sharp tool and a soft sponge. And the hole for the ribbon is another place where I have to do some added cleanup because of the sharp edges left by the hole puncher. Sometimes the cleanup water will clog up the hole, so I blow through it to open it back up again, and sometimes the cracking is so severe that I just have to toss the whole thing. I realized that if I made the fortune cookie slightly thicker on the slab roller, they survive better in this cleanup stage, but I still lose a fair number of them. For those that are worried, I do often recycle my clay scraps, but for these, the amount of clay loss is so minimal that I do just toss these in the garbage. But because these clay ingredients are all mined from the earth, I don't think it's that bad for the environment to toss them at this stage, since they just naturally go back to being dust. Well, that's what I tell myself, at least. After they're cleaned up, they're ready to load in the kiln for the first of 2 firings. The nice thing about these is that I don't have to worry too much about the first firing and can really just pile them in the kiln. Warping is not really a concern like it is when I make tableware like plates and bowls. And after the first firing, I take everything out for the glazing process. I've chosen to do a half dip in white glaze for these, and sometimes people ask me how I prevent the fortune cookie from sticking to the kiln during the second glaze firing, and it's simply because I don't glaze the entire thing, I only glaze the top half. I do that in part because of the sticking issue, but also design-wise, I think that's what gives them their edge and uniqueness. Once again, the glaze here can clog the hole, so I really have to be sure that the hole is cleaned up, or else you won't be able to get that ribbon through in the end. In fact, I did have a couple that fully clogged and were unusable. I even tried to drill the hole open unsuccessfully. The glaze is just too strong for my weak drill. In the second firing for glaze, you can't just stack them willy-nilly. You have to place them nicely without touching. It's nice that these are small though, because you can fit a ton of these into one glaze firing. Ultimately, I was able to make 225 ornaments, plus a bunch of extras just in case any of them failed, and I was able to fit my entire run in this one firing, which was nice. The risk, of course, is that if anything went wrong with that firing, then my months of work could have been lost. But luckily, most made it out, and some of them did come out non-sellable, but I gave those away as my own personal gifts, while the good-looking ones I sold to the public. For the ribbon, I debated for a while what kind and what color to use. I thought about white for a little bit to fit in with the vibe and to make it match with the fortune cookie, but ultimately I chose red because it just kind of pops, and also it's a nice homage to Chinese culture where red is the color of good luck and prosperity. One person did message me on Instagram asking if it would be possible to tie a blue ribbon instead so they can give it as a Hanukkah gift. And as I was about to respond no because it's too hard to source new ribbon, I remembered that I had thin blue ribbon from my last year's Christmas decor, so making that accommodation was actually easy. I messaged them back and showed them what I had, and they said it would work. So I did make one custom order, but no, normally I would not have. As for pricing, I wasn't quite sure how to price these because punching the hole, cleaning up the hole, and adding the ribbon is not an insignificant amount of time extra on top of making the plain fortune cookie. I last sold the plain fortune cookie for $20, which included shipping within the US, and shipping cost me about $5 a box. I surprised myself at how much longer the ornaments took me compared to my non-ornament version. I thought that just punching a hole and tying a ribbon would be quick, but the extra cleaning and tying practically doubled my time investment into these. And I decided not to double the price, but I did basically raise the price 35% and sold them for $27. They did sell out in about a week, which was nice, but shame on me, I completely forgot to save any for myself, so my own Christmas tree didn't have any of my own ornaments on it. When I posted to Instagram that I forgot to keep any for myself, 2 customers separately offered to mail me back one so that I could have one for myself, which completely astounded me. Can you imagine the kindness of people that pay for something and then offer to just give it back for free? I couldn't believe it. I of course rejected those offers since I can just make more myself, but I will have to wait till next year's Christmas to display them on my own tree. I do have a ton of my original egg ornaments because when I launched those a couple years ago, I had 0 following, and so only friends and family bought them from me. I'm lucky now to have some non-friends or family followers that will purchase my stuff, and it really just tickles me that now that I have a little bit of following on social media, I can just post a picture and people will buy what I have. I do like these new fortune cookie ornaments better than what I made before, and while I don't have any more now, I do hope to make even more for next year's Christmas. I've actually been thinking if there would be a simple way to start including fortunes, that would be really neat. It might be kind of fun to include some funny messages in them. So we'll see for next year.